What's up YouTube? Del here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a YUBEL profile. This will be pure orientated with combos and it is absolutely insane. YUBEL got some amazing new support in the form of Spirit and YUBEL, the loving defender forever, not to mention some more. So before we get started, massive shout out to Kyron, who has helped me put this list together. He will also be bringing you a more competitive build involving Unchained, and then also be bringing you a hero version as well. With everything out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. I'll also show you some basic combos at the end of the video for how this deck can OTK and set up its go first super poly type play as well. If you want to see more from YUBEL, like some test hands or even combo videos, get a video above 50 likes and I'll be more than happy to bring it for you. So, diving head first into the first of the brand new cards is Spirit of YUBEL. The only thing this was missing is if it was treated as YUBEL, but it's still a YUBEL card, which is the one thing the rest of the YUBEL new support got. So it's really, really kind of cool. Can't destroy a battle. Also, you take no damage from battles involving this card. If this card is destroyed in general, you get to special on one of your YUBEL that is banished, in hand, deck, or graveyard. Amazing. It covers absolutely everywhere, apart from the extra deck and side deck. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you get to special on this card from the hand. And if this card is special summoned, you get to add from your deck or set one spell or trap from the deck that mentions YUBEL. So it gets you into all of the brand new YUBEL spells and traps. On top of the fact that it also allows you to set up every other type of play you need to, because when you combo this off with Nightmare Pain, it means your opponent must attack this card where able, and then they take every battle damage. Beautiful. Then for the OG lineup, of course, you do have the one YUBEL. The deck actually does utilize this card quite a lot. So being able to bounce from YUBEL back from the graveyard and everywhere else because of Spirit of YUBEL is absolutely insane. Then, of course, we are playing the one Terra Incarnate and the one Ultimate Nightmare. This is just for the theme of the deck in general. I don't think they're as applicable as original YUBEL because, yes, you can still get into Terra Incarnate. You can still get into Ultimate Nightmare, but you do need to remember that because YUBEL is an old style card, it is a win effects, so these two can miss timing when they're trying to kind of level up into the next form of YUBEL, but you kind of want to keep it YUBEL themed, which is why we're playing one of each of them. Arguably, in a more competitive build, you might consider taking definitely out the Ultimate Nightmare, and then you may consider taking out the Terra Incarnate, but it does just feel nice to be playing the whole deck as it should be. Then, of course, we've got the one Geist Grinder Golem. This is really important for the deck as well because this will help you instigate your OTK plays. You can special summon Grinder Golem once per turn, and you get to reveal one YUBEL monster, beautiful, in your hand to special summon this card from the hand to your opponent's field, and then you get to special summon the revealed monster to your field. Once per turn during damage calculation, if this card battles a YUBEL monster, your opponent gains 300 life points. If you special summon a YUBEL while this card is in the graveyard, except during damage step, you get to special summon it to your opponent's field. Now, in Sneak, this actually came up massively important because my opponent tribute summoned to get into this as it's like one of the strongest monsters they could have. Unlucky for them, I had Spirit of YUBEL, so I was able to attack that and be like, cool, gain some life points, thank you very much. And then we've got two Samsara D-Lotus. Now, I'm going to say this now, I didn't pick up my third one at Sneak Peek, so I am playing one for one, but ultimately what I would say is as soon as I get my third Samsara Lotus, I'm definitely going to be playing that at free, there's no doubt. The card's so good. So you get to tribute this card to special on a YUBEL from the deck, so it's basically like a Lone Fire Blossom for YUBEL cards. Then on top of that as well, during your opponent's turn, when a monster effect is activated while you control a YUBEL monster, quick effect, you can tribute this card, the activated effect becomes destroy one YUBEL monster on the field. Very nice. During your end phase, if you control YUBEL and this card is in the graveyard, you can either add it back from the grave to the hand or special summon it. And the reason it's important to special summon it, because when you bring it back, it means YUBEL contribute it off. So it all comes down to like minimize resource, so you're not losing YUBEL. And you want to keep YUBEL on the board because then that's how you're going to be able to technically super poly into the brand new YUBEL, the Loving Defender Forever. Technically, well, still GX themed, and I definitely feel that I'm pretty sure YUBEL's use these in like Season 4, which is really cool. So we play a very small Sacred Beast engine, basically being Dark Beckoning Beast. And the reason that this is such a good card for the deck in general is not only does it give you an additional normal summon of a monster with 0/0, but on top of that as well, it does also search you out your opening of the Spirit Gates, and this is how you can get YUBEL back from the graveyard very easily as well. So for those of you unfamiliar with both the cards of Dark Beckoning Beast and Opening the Spirit Gates, they did come in the Sacred Beast Structure deck, so they've come in commons, and they've also come as ultra rares in the Megatins of 2021. So when this card is normal summon specifically, you get to add Uriah, Hamon, Raviel, or a card that specifically mentions it from the deck to the hand, which is where you're going to be able to search out your opening of the Spirit Gates. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn, and then also during your main phase you get to normal summon one themed monster with 0 attack and defense in addition to your normal summon or set. Very nice. Opening the Spirit Gates, when it's activated, you get to add a Uriah, Hamon, or Raviel, or a monster that specifically lists any of those in its text from the deck to the hand. So you can just search out another Beckoning Beast. Very nice. And then once per turn, you get to discard one card to special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your graveyard, which exactly what YUBEL is. If you control a level 10 monster, which YUBEL is, you can add one continuous spell from the graveyard to the hand. So it can add you back any of your continuous spells, mainly your Chronicle, but it can also add back itself, so you're just gaining back more free discard fodder. And then a generic search card for the entire deck is insane, is Piri Rizzi Map. Unfortunately, it does have to be activated at the start of main phase 1, but you get to add a monster with 0 attack from the deck to the hand, so it can search you out your YUBELs, it can search you out your Spirit YUBELs, your Samphire Lotus, everything you need. Unfortunately, it does also halve your life points. Until the end of the next turn after this card is activated, you cannot activate the added monster's effects or the effects of cards with its name until you normal summon said monster. Now, obviously, searching out original YUBEL is not going to be great for you, but you're mainly going to want to go for the Samsara Lotus. You do then still have additional abilities to search out the cards, destroy them, and do everything else you need to. Because YUBEL, the Loving Defender, requires YUBEL and then one or more effect monsters on the field, you kind of have to use the card that YUBEL introduced, and that is Super Poly. So Super Poly is absolutely insane. Technically it was Dark Jaden, but it was Jaden possessed with YUBEL, giving it a added oomph. But being able to play Super Poly is absolutely insane. It gives the deck go first options, go second options, everything you could possibly imagine. Another shout out to Kyron on this one. I was like debating what cards to play and like how I wanted to play this deck, whether I wanted to be go first, go second. This deck is just, it has a nice balance to be able to do both. And the one thing that you could do, like change up if you like 100% want to go second, I would definitely consider Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. And the reason that's so good is quite like the Golem. The whole idea of giving your opponent a 3,000 attack boss monster is for the pure fact that you're just going to run into it with your own monsters and they're going to take 3,000 damage. And as long as you get to do that twice, you go into Gustav Max and then finish off the final 2k. So you can play Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, give your opponent either of the 2 Kaijus that are 3,000 or more. You get a Kaiju as well, because why not? And then you get your YUBELs to the board, and you attack twice YUBELs, they take 6,000, and then you overlay, and then that's how you get into Gustav Max. Another one of the brand new cards, this card's absolutely insane as well. So like, if you was at Sneak Peek and you were lucky enough to open up Pain and Spirit of YUBEL, you pretty much had an indestructible monster that allowed you to deal with the illusion monsters, because more times than not, people would have the common illusion monster that kept flipping itself up, draw a card, flip it face down, and then go again, but couldn't be destroyed by battle. Whereas if you had Nightmare Pain and YUBEL, you could just keep attacking it. Yes, they'll draw, but they would either eventually deck out, or you just keep attacking your opponent and at least keep doing a bit of damage. So Nightmare Pain, continuous spell card. During your main phase, you get to destroy one dark monster in your hand or face up on the field. Wow, if only Spirit of YUBEL and YUBEL had destruction. Oh, wait, they do! Oh, Konami, the synergy you have brought us with these YUBEL cards are insane. And then what you get to do is add a YUBEL card, specifically one YUBEL or a card that mentions it, very easy, from the deck to the hand, except itself. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can obviously use the first effect once per turn as well. While you control a YUBEL monster, your opponent's monsters that can attack must attack YUBEL. Your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving YUBEL monsters. Very nice. And then, of course, we've got the one mature Chronicle. Each time a monster or monsters is special that is a YUBEL monster or mentions YUBEL, you place a Chronicle counter on this card, and you get to remove Chronicle counters from your field to activate one of these effects. Special summon a YUBEL from the graveyard, nice, infinite resource, and one of your banished cards to the hand. Well, that kind of makes me want to play Allure of Darkness, but, you know. 3, banish one card from the deck. 4, destroy one card on the field. And 5, add Super Poly from the deck to the hand. I can search Super Poly. Now, another card you could, or like an engine you could consider with this deck is you could also consider the Dogmatica package, because then there are ways to search out Super Poly more often. You don't really rely on going in the extra deck during your turn. And even then, you can go during your turn and then Super Poly during your opponent's turn. So, again, the reason I've not done that is because I wanted this deck to be more aggressive, and of course, it's pure. Then, of course, we've got 2 Eternal Favourites. This card's nuts as well. I would have loved to have seen this as a super, so hopefully a future OTS upgrade on this. So once per turn, you can activate one of these effects, but you can only use each effect of Eternal Favourite once per turn. Special on one of your YUBEL monsters that is banished or in the graveyard. Neither player can activate cards or effects when that monster is special summoned. Or, if you control YUBEL, discard 1 card and send this face-up card to the graveyard. Fusion summon 1 fusion monster from the extra deck using monsters from either field as material. It is basically a searchable Super Poly for the deck because you can set it or search it off of Spirit of YUBEL. Great synergy. And then moving on to the generic cards like your hand traps and everything else, we've got triple Nibiru. Now, the reason Nibiru is actually insanely good in this deck is because it doesn't matter how strong that token is, you give it to your opponent, you put it in attack mode. Because what you're going to do then is you're going to summon down your YUBEL. YUBEL is then going to take on that token head on, and even if that token has a gajillion attack, it will all be going to your opponent as damage anyway. So, very nice hand trap. And then, of course, if your opponent is starting to expect it more and more, take it out, interrupted Kaiji Slumber, do it that way instead. Triple Ash Blossom, standard on that one, really. Triple Infinite Impermanence, again, this is probably like the best hand trap for going first and second. It's like, oh, if I draw this to a turn, it's not the end of the world because I can still imperm something like a Baron and I'm doing a 1-for-1 trade, and then the rest of my cards can resolve, so I can Super Poly my opponent's board. Pot of Prosperity, this is the only one that really risks your OTK, but then there are ways to just constantly keep burning your opponent down anyway and set up Super Poly boards, protect your boards, break their board, you name it. So activating Pot of Prosperity is not the end of the world. It's probably the best draw card for the deck because Allure will still burn you out some resource. And if you Allure and get drolled, it's gonna suck. And then 2 Triple Tactics Talents. Now, of course, in place of the Triple Tactics Talents, you can consider Instant Fusion and Call by the Grave if you are worried about Droll and your local environment or the environment you're taking this to is absolutely swarmed with them. It is entirely up to you. Like I said, I've built this deck to go second thanks to the help of Chiron, and the idea is that with talents I can steal an opponent's monster, not that I need to worry about it too much, or I can draw more cards, or just look at my opponent's hand and go, okay, cool, we'll get rid of that card, and then I'm able to continue to go off for the OTK. So it gives you a lot of different options that you may need, and it just kind of gives you a bit more variety. But like I said, if you're more worried about being defensive and trying to stop hand traps like Droll, which is going to be mainly the one that will give you an issue, then of course very easily swap these out, Call by the Grave, Instant Fusion, you're good to rock and roll. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. We are playing 2 of the brand new YUBEL, the Loving Defender Forever. If anyone has quarter centuries of these, hit me up because I think it would look absolutely amazing. So this card requires 1 YUBEL monster. I'm so happy it wasn't just YUBEL. God, that would have been painful. So 1 YUBEL monster plus 1 or more effect monsters on the field. Very nice. If this card is fusion summoned, you get to inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each material used. Okay. You can only use this effect once per turn. And then cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. At the end of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack. And if you do, banish it. Non-target removal during the damage step. Very nice. And then, of course, we've got generic Super Poly targets in the form of Starving Venom, Mud Dragon, Dragon's Depelia, and Garura. And then when we're moving on to the extra deck for our XYZs, we have Typhoon, because let's be honest, all of your monsters are going to be 0/0. So if you can upgrade one of those into a Typhoon, winning. And then, of course, you've got the Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. Now, the idea is, like I said, is YUBEL, Spirit of YUBEL, and normal YUBEL attack something like with 3,000 or more attack, and as long as you're going to do that 3,000 attack damage to your opponent, you then get to overlay both of those into Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, detach, burn for 2k, GG, bruh. If you can't do that and you just want to be able to attack all of your opponent's monsters once each, you can go into Rail Cannon Juggernaut Libel. And then, of course, we do have Zeus to go with its brother in the form of Sky Slayer Typhoon. Then for the Link monsters, pretty generic on this one. IP Masquerena, Relinquish Anima, so there are times when you would normal summon out the Samsara Lotus, it could get impermed, it could get stopped. But the idea behind that is when you'd get to go into something, you could go defensively with a Link Karibo, but in this one you can go into a Relinquish Anima, attempt to either bait out one of your opponent's interactions or attempt to steal it. You don't have to play it, this can very easily become a third form of the YUBEL, wherever it is. You can play a third version of YUBEL, the Loving Defender, but honestly I think 2 is more than enough. I then got with a Pit Knight Earl. The reason for this is sometimes your YUBEL will destroy your board during the end phase, and I just quite like the idea on this one that it could constantly keep floating itself back, so you're always maintaining a bit of resource. Again, this can very easily be something like a Nightmare Unicorn. You could even build yourself up into a Underworld Goddess if you want to, more targets off the back of IP, everything. And then, of course, we've got the one SP Little Knight, and then we also have the one, the Dark Charmer. The idea is, again, just to kind of steal one of your opponent's Sinful Spurs or Snake Eye, the YUBEL Star Witch from the graveyard, bring it back. And then that's when you're probably going to want to look for more of your upclimb monsters, like higher link monsters. But the idea is you go the Dark Charmer, steal one of your opponent's monsters from the graveyard, go into SP Little Knight, banish, and off you go. And the best thing with this deck is you don't want to be attacking directly anyway, because more times than not, your YUBEL monsters are going to have 0 attack, so they're not going to do anything for you, which means the SP Little Knight effect, where it's like you can't attack directly that turn, is pretty much null and voided, which is also really, really helpful. So that's it for the entire main deck and the extra deck. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a very basic combo for the deck, just so you can kind of get a introduction into what the deck can do. We'll talk about setting up a super poly play and everything else you need to with the minimum resource as possible. So back in a second. So this is why I really need to get a third copy of the Samsara D Lotus, because it is very important for the 1.5 card combo. It is basically Lotus plus any discard. Very nice. So you're going to start off by normal summoning off the Lotus, then use this effect to tribute it off and get yourself into the Spirit of YUBEL. Excellent. When you special summon this Spirit of YUBEL, you get the ability to search yourself out a Nightmare Pain. During the main phase, you get to use Nightmare Pain's effect, so you're going to flip it up and activate it to destroy one dark monster in your hand or face up on the field, and add a YUBEL or one card that mentions it. So we're going to be able to destroy the Spirit of YUBEL, in doing so allowing us to add the Eternal Favourite, which is basically our Super Poly. Then on top of that, you would then be able to resolve the Spirit of YUBEL's effect to special summon out YUBEL from the deck. Very nice. Move to the end phase. During the end phase, what you're going to do is you're going to use the Samsara Lotus effect to come back, and then you choose to use YUBEL's effect. It is mandatory, but you make sure you resolve the Lotus to come back to the field first, so you can then use YUBEL's effect to tribute off said Lotus so you don't lose it. Then when it gets to your opponent's turn, this is why you need this discard in the hand, is once your opponent starts to build up their board, you then get to flip the Eternal Favourite. So if you control YUBEL, discard one card, there you go, and send this card face up from the field to the graveyard to fusion summon a fusion monster using monsters from either field. So you'd use YUBEL, and then as many monsters that your opponent has to get yourself into YUBEL, the Loving Defender, forever. Loving Defender will then burn your opponent for as many materials that has been used, and your opponent must attack this card where able, and they will take every bit of battle damage. So the idea is, or the best place to do it, is if your opponent does not know this deck, you flip this during the battle phase. The only issue is because you've searched it out, they should probably ask to read it. If they get a little bit lazy and like, yeah, I don't want to read it, whatever, it can't be that bad. You just put a YUBEL on the board, how good can the deck be? You just go, okay, cool, battle phase, super poly, and then they're like, end battle phase? Or what? So yeah, you kind of put them in a really bad position, and I'm pretty sure when they enter the battle phase, because they're all in attack mode, they have to attack, so they're then forced to attack the YUBEL, and it's like, okay, well, if they've just tried to put on 8k's worth of damage to kill you, they've just killed themselves. So, how do you like that one? Anyway, that is it for the profile. That is it for the combo. It gives you a very basic breakdown. Like I said, if you want to see more from YUBEL, if you want to see some combos, if you want to see more test hands, if you want to see the competitive Unchained version or a hero version, then make sure you smash that like button. Getting it above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will unlock that for you. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. And as absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.